In progress.
Good evening, and welcome to the December 3rd, 2025 Yarmouth Planning Board meeting. I am Joan Crowley, Chair. The public is welcome to attend in person this evening, as you have, thank you, or via alternative public access provided on the notice of meeting available on the Town of Yarmouth website. I'd like to begin by taking roll call. Susan Britta.
Present.
Deirdre Gaquin. Here. Tom Peddleton.
Here.
Willa Rubenstein.
Here.
Peter Slovak.
Here.
Ken Smith.
Here.
Joanne Crowley, present. So we have a quorum. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on our agenda this evening is the update from the Library Building Committee. I'm very pleased to have you here this evening. Thank you for all your hard work. I'd like to recognize some members of the committee. We have the chair, Judy Tarver. We have Tom Pendleton, also a member of the Planning Board here. Sandy Fife is here as well. Susan Britta, member of the Planning Board, is also here. John Greco, Vasiliki Giannatos, I apologize for the mispronunciation. Our selectwoman, Doris McGurkin, Joseph Lebrec, and Mindy Harrington, who you always can see in a crowd. Oh, yeah. And as a member of the Library Board of Trustees at South Yarmouth Library, Mindy and I are well acquainted. So welcome to the meeting, and come forward and share with us your update, please. And introductions just for public consumption here, that would be good.
Hello. I'm Judy Connors Tarver. I'm the chair, and with me tonight is Matt Odens, who is a principal in Odensell, an architect, and the architect that we've been working with. So I just want to give you a quick update where we've been with this, because it's a huge project for the town, and Matt's going to take it away as far as present, what we've accomplished, and what we're facing for the next few question marks. So our committee was established May 1st, and we got right to work on site evaluations. And we did an open meeting on 6/17. We met on the 18th, voted our site, brought it to the select board on June 24, and they approved the site. And at that time, we were referring to the site as the Simpkins Field. We were later corrected, and it is Joshua Sears playground. So that's the correct term for that piece of property. And we were kind of fortunate in that the site that was approved by the select board included two parcels. So parcel 50, is the parcel we think of as the playground, that if you're on Route 28 and you look straight across to the back of the Simpkins housing, that piece of property where the Seaside Festival is and that sort of thing. Parcel 60 is to the east, and that includes the MacArthur School building and undeveloped property, parking lots and that sort of thing. So some questions came up about the availability of parcel 50. There were lots of question marks with this, and we were unable to get a final decision from town council about whether this was an eligible piece of property to use. And given what was presented to the select board and to us by interested parties who had been involved with the property, it seemed like there was enough evidence that we should not disrupt this, and that it was probably protected property. So fortunately, we had the ability to pivot to parcel 60, and that was done. And then we went to the select board on October 7th and presented the new ideas, the new design, and looking for direction from them. It was decided that the library building committee would continue on the road that we're on, which is basically to meet the deadline of the Mass Board of Library Commissioners and their requirements to have the proposals submitted by December 31 for a library to serve the whole town. And that's that charge. Simultaneously, there were several board members who were interested in determining whether the MacArthur School was eligible to be reworked into a library. There was an assessment done, actually, the day we submitted it on October 7th. I think it was done October 5th. So Matt's consulting engineers went in and they found a lot of issues with that idea. Then we went to special town meeting, and there was a proposal, and that was voted down. So that's really out of our hands anyway as the library building committee, because what we're trying to do is find a good site and be fiscally sound in how we approach the development of a new library. I also just wanted to say that in our comprehensive plan, which I know you guys are very familiar with, in the Chapter 6, the capital infrastructure and facilities, it really does mention that one of the important things is the lack of a modern library, a lack of modern library facilities. So this project really is moving forward to meet those needs. So what we've done since that meeting in the beginning of October has been to continue to work on programs. And what that means in this context is the library study that had been done that we inherited, that Matt's firm inherited, determined that there were certain programmatic areas that our town would need for adult services, children's services, circulation, support for the staff, bathroom facilities, that sort of thing. So there's been a lot of wiggling around about that. Site evaluations have continued, and we're working on parking and we talk a lot about parking. So,
We do too.
yeah. Okay. Also, I'm not sure exactly when this was, but Odinzello met with a representative group from Town Hall, which included building, health department, fire, a number of the people who would be involved. Oh, Kathy was there, involved in hurting this project wherever it needed to go and what requirements might need to be made. So now I'm going to turn it over to Matt and
Thank you,
take it
Judy.
away.
Kathy, actually, if you can promote me as panelist, I can share my screen because I have an updated site plan. I'm on the Zoom.
Okay, then people in the audience and may not be able to see it.
But if I share it on the Zoom, they won't see it?
They won't see it, well, they might be able to see it on the other side. Liam?
He's got it.
They should.
I have it connected back here. I can put that up on the.
You can put it
Yeah,
up.
on both screens.
So should I close this out? What should
No,
I?
as long as the presentation's connected to the HDMI port, we're fine.
But it's not, it would need to be
All you
connected to
need-
his,
If he
his,
can plug his computer into there and I can put it up so everyone can see it.
So you don't want me to connect through Zoom?
And then it will.
fewer people can see it. We got this one extra long, so we should be good.
I've got a super long one if you need it.
This one looks
Just need to untangle.
it's like a double Dutch one.
Great, thanks. option to mirror, which I did.
Display settings?
Oh, there it is, great. Oh, it won't go full screen, that's why. Had it and lost it.
Story of our lives.
Lost it again?
It won't let me go full screen, but that's fine. I can just advance the slides this way. Sorry, everybody. We just have an updated site plan, and I don't want to talk about parking with an old site plan, so apologies. Unplug it and plug it in again, maybe. Okay.
There we go.
All right.
Never gets any credit.
Here we go. All right.
Thank you, Liam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. So, Judy, thank you for the background. I just want to back up a little bit and give everybody some context in terms of schedule. This is what we see as the schedule for the full project. We are wrapping up that first little blue bar there that says feasibility study, which is a 6-month study. This was funded through a planning and design grant from the state, Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. We have a completion and submission of the study materials at the end of December. That then goes to the state MBLC for their review. We get review comments back. Yarmouth is one of the immediately funded towns, which means, assuming that this goes to Springtown meeting and the voters vote in favor of the project and the town agrees to pay the matching funds from the grant, it automatically moves forward into the next phases. There are waitlisted towns. You are not one of them. You're immediately funded. So, oh dear.
Do you want to put it on a thumb drive and I can put it here?
Sure. So after that review period, there's still a year of design before we go to bidding and construction. So, we're looking at basically submitting bid documents by spring of 2027. So that puts it into context a little bit in terms of schedule. Sorry, technology is never easy, is it?
Well, I think the library building committee attracts these problems. Almost every meeting. So, our apologies.
No.
No, not to worry. No.
Maybe they're afraid.
Should be careful. Maybe
exact name. And you got the clicker?
Oh,
right there
perfect.
that should
Thank
work
you.
For you?
Whoa.
Excellent.
All right.
All right.
Back in
Thank
business.
you. All right.
Hey.
Good job.
Okay. Sorry about that.
All right.
So, any questions about the schedule? We're at the tip of the iceberg here, is the message. There's a lot left in terms of design, planning, approvals. Obviously, we'll be coming before you as a group formally. We'll be going through a site plan review process, to follow all of the normal processes for approvals and permitting and everything. So, this is the very beginning. We keep hearing from both the MBLC and from our clients, talk about final plans, final submission, and there's nothing final about this submission. There's a lot still to do once we submit this to the MBLC. So this is all just by way of context. Judy mentioned the program. We obviously inherited a program and used that as the basis to develop planning options. As Judy also said, we started by focusing on parcel 50, one of the two parcels in this combined town-owned property, with the discovery that was protected by Article 90, that we had previously at a public forum shown 5 different options for how a library might work with a future town common on that open space. We obviously had to pivot after this and move to, what should I be pointing this at? It's not advancing.
You want me to, I can do it.
Okay, next.
Next slide?
Yeah. So we started focusing on parcel 60. Obviously, the MacArthur School building and parking is already there, so we had to think, okay, well, where can we fit a library in the context of that existing condition? The highlighted triangular shape there between the access road and the boundary with parcel 50 was too small to accommodate library and parking. Next. The area immediately behind the MacArthur School is certainly big enough, it's flat, but we felt that that wasn't quite the right place for a new important civic building for the town, to put it behind another building, not easily seen, not easily accessed. Next. And so that led us to focus on this northeast corner of the site. If any of you are familiar with the site, you will know that that is heavily wooded. We also realized once we started getting some survey work that there's also a big depression there, which you can't see because you can't walk into that property. But we looked at that a little bit more carefully. Next, please. And realized that, there is a decent amount of flat area to the right of that depression. And the depression, although it looks dramatic in topo, is much gentler than it appears. And so we thought that could actually become an interesting amenity around which this public library is organized. Next. And so we did just that. We started thinking, can we fit the various wings, children, adults, community, around the edges of this, what we started thinking of as a landscape feature, an amenity really to the library. Next, please. This is that area. Next, it's very dense. This is just on the other side of the access road. If you look at an overall topo map, you'll see that the access road was filled. So originally this was one continuous depression. So the area that you see here in this photograph is on the parcel 50 side. It's adjacent to the fields. There's a DPW storage, lot right next to it. But it's quite nice. There's very little maintenance done in there, but it's open. It gets some sunlight. It has a nice character. And we think that the area around the library could have a similar feel with a little bit of clearing. And so this started in our minds to become something of a benefit. And here, next slide, please. We have a building that is close to Route 28, accessible both by foot and by car, independent enough of the MacArthur School building, and yet has this kind of secluded feel, this sort of special quality of the place around the library that for us was very exciting. And the same way we got excited about a library next to a town common, that's a great pairing. This also to us seemed, it's very different, but it also seemed really interesting and compelling as a memorable building. And you know, who doesn't want to spend time in buildings that have that kind of relationship to the outdoors? Next, please. So since that time, we've been developing plans, and this has been an iterative process, as you guys know. We've been working closely with library staff, with the building committee, with the MBLC representatives, to make sure that things are where they need to be, that we're accommodating collections, we're accommodating seating, all of which is spelled out in the library program, that we're meeting requirements for sight lines, for accessibility, off-hours community access. This is a requirement of all of the MBLC projects that off-hours, there is provision made to access at least one community meeting space. Here we have two. We have a 120-seat auditorium, which is a flexible space, flat floor, even though it's called an auditorium, movable chairs and furniture. So, you know, very flexible kind of space. A smaller classroom space, which is around 600 square feet, that could be used for classes, for activities, you know, different meeting groups. And these are accessible both during the day for library patrons, but also off hours. So that wing, that community wing, which is the bottom wing here, can I point with this? Yeah, Kathy is pointing it out. That's it. This whole wing can be closed off here. So the main entrance to the building is here. There's a covered entry porch into a central lobby, off of which are these kind of various spokes. Children and teens on the left. Ooh. Did I do that?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Now it starts working, right? Let me try to bring it. Is that where you were? No.
I'm going to just let Kathy drive. The wing at the top, the yellow wing, is adults. The red is community function. So that the red areas, those two classrooms, plus all of their ancillary spaces, the public restrooms, the kitchen that serves the meeting room, AV, storage, all of those rooms are part of this off-hours suite of rooms. We also typically provide generator power for that area, so if power goes out in town, the library can serve as a sort of warming and cooling center. We stop short of it being a shelter, but having it available, we have found, is a real benefit for towns. They can charge their phone, they can get a cup of coffee, connect with other people in town. So that's become kind of standard in terms of how we approach this. And then staff and utilities is the program that's sort of behind the, to the right there, yeah. And the circulation desk in blue in the center has visual oversight of all three wings. So this organization seemed to work. We're now at around a 25,000 square foot building. Next, please. These are visuals that are now slightly out of date, but they're generally, the spirit of these, I think, is still indicative of where we're heading with this. So this is an aerial view of the existing condition, obviously 3D modeled, with the MacArthur building on the right. Next, please. This is the proposed building that you see for scale. It's slightly different in its massing now, but that's how it sits on the site. There's plenty of room for expanded parking, and we'll talk about the site plan in a minute. Next. And then a couple of ground level views. This is a view as you would approach the building from parking. So you're seeing the covered entry porch and community wing on the right. The children's and teen wing is to the left in the further distance. And then in between them is the entry and lobby. Next. This is a view from the other side, down in that depression, kind of on the, I don't want to call it ravine, but that, you know, down in the bowl, looking back up towards the building. A very different character, you know, wooded, kind of bucolic in a way, but also still very close to 28, which is great. Children's wing is on the right, adult wing is in the back. Next. And a view from 28. The adult wing is the one that's closer to us. Next. But being able to see this kind of through the trees as you're moving along 28, but still have it set back enough that there's some separation and a kind of space created by the library between Route 28 and the library itself. Next, please. So in terms of zoning and some of the sort of specific requirements, this is the blow up on the right is where we are on the zoning map, and we've outlined in white the parcel 60 lot that we sit on with the MacArthur building, and then the star is where our proposed building is going. This is a B2 zone with an HMO D1 overlay. It borders a residential district to the south. Yard requirements are front yard 30, side yard 25, rear yard 20. We have no problem complying with any of those. Maximum building height, 35 feet. We don't think that's going to be an issue, although we'll want to be careful about how we approach the relationship of the top of the roof to the lowest point of the site and understand how that factors into the calculation. But even with that, I think we'll be below the 35 feet. So we don't see any issues in terms of kind of dimensional requirements that require relief. We think we can comply with all of those. Next, please. Parking, oh, this is not the right parking lot. How did that happen? Kathy, if I email you.
I don't have access to my email
You
on
don't?
this computer, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Do this to you again.
Well, we did look at this parking organization, which,
We did. We have a new layout which has a different parking count. Which I thought was in here, but.
I can talk about.
Kathy, what is that Route 28 setback? 30.
And we're further back from the 30-foot setback. We're probably another 10 feet back.
Are they widening the road there? I know we're not
Yeah.
asking questions yet, but I mean, oh,
20 feet.
While Kathy's loading this up,
May I interrupt for just one second? I'd like to make a note that Mr. Smith is leaving to attend a capital budget meeting with the Finance Committee. He will be returning.
We hope.
We hope.
Good luck, Ken.
I'm sorry. Continue. Sorry about that.
oh, no worries. All right, here we go.
This is just what you, the one.
Yeah, just the one page. Great, that is it. Okay, deep breath.
We're a
So-
friendly crowd.
The complication here is that there's an existing building that has existing parking, and we are also providing parking for the library. So we're combining those two lots. So we need to understand not only the approach for parking for the library, but also for the MacArthur building. There, as an existing condition, there are 19 spaces west of the MacArthur building. We're not planning to do anything with those spaces. That's what you see along the left-hand side facing the field. There are also 48 spaces to the right of the MacArthur building. As I understand it, that is phase one of a permitted larger phase of parking for that building. It is unclear what the final use of that building will be. It's currently a school, and it's an elementary school, so elementary school parking, I would think, is a different calculation than collegiate school parking. It was leased to Bridgewater State, older students, you know, older driving people, whereas elementary school kids are getting dropped off, so I would think the parking requirements for those two uses are different, although it doesn't distinguish in zoning between elementary school and higher ed. Libraries are also not a use listed specifically in zoning. So in our initial read of zoning, we thought that the assembly, it's clear that schools are included in the assembly occupancy listing for parking requirements. Schools are a P1 use, and P1 is listed as one of the assembly uses that falls into that category, which is calculated at one space for every 3 occupants. So based on the certificate of occupancy for the MacArthur building, which shows a total occupant count of, I want to say, 1,000 people, which is quite high, that creates a ridiculously large lot of 300 and some cars, which could never happen. There are 48 spaces to the right. And again, we don't know the future use of the MacArthur building. Is it going to continue to be an elementary school? Could it be town offices? Could it be some other use in the future? It's impossible for us to predict. So the approach that we have chosen to take for parking is replicate the existing spaces, the 48 spaces that are there now, add to that the required library spaces. This is the other gray area. Libraries are not a listed use in zoning. So we've made the assumption that they fall into the other category when you look at parking requirements, which is at the discretion of the building commissioner. When we met with site plan review, there were some on that panel that said, no, it should really be assembly, if library is assembly occupancy for the purposes of code, it should then be considered assembly for the purposes of parking counts. If you follow the way the zoning is written, that doesn't quite fit because it's by use. Library is not a listed use. So there's some question there. I think there's a gray area about parking. And then there's also the question of how do you count occupancy for parking? Because when we calculate occupancy occupancy different ways for different things. We calculate occupancy for egress, which is the highest occupancy you get, and that's based on, the type of area and then square feet per occupant based on the use of that area. There is occupancy that's calculated by actual use, or we tend to count seats in a library project. That's the occupancy that we use to determine plumbing fixtures, because that's a more accurate representation of who's actually going to be using this building. And then there's the MBLC requirement, the MBLC metric. Their requirement is 1 space for every 400 gross square feet, plus accessible spaces, plus staff spaces. So if we take that as a starting point, that's the minimum as far as the state's concerned. We're right now at about 25,300 square feet. That translates to 64 spaces at 1 per 400. We would then be required to add 3 or 4 accessible spaces. The accessible spaces are based on the total number of parking that you have. We're counting 4. And then we have 12 staff spaces, which is a number that came out of a conversation with the library director. So that gets us to a total of 80 that would satisfy the state's requirement. If we calculated this at 1 per 3 occupants, we're going to be well over 80. What we have shown here, and I apologize, it's a little bit busy with the line work, so I'm hoping you can read it, but we have a total of 131 spaces, 83 new spaces, and 48 existing spaces. So we've maintained the 48 spaces from the MacArthur building. We've added 83. We've established that the MBLC is going to be looking for 80 minimum. So we're there. They fit. We're within the setbacks. We're constrained by the 2 buildings, west and north. We're at the setbacks for the east and south sides. And we have a little bit of room, and you can see, Kathy, if you can point out those 2 dashed areas. We have a little bit of room for expansion. We could get 30 more spaces down in that lower corner, and we could tuck 8 spaces. I mean, we could eat up all of that green area, but I think that would be unfortunate to have all of that filled in with parking. We're trying to preserve a little bit of green space between MacArthur and the library. but we thought we could add another row of parking, get 8 spaces. So that's 38 additional spaces, which would take us to a total of 169 spaces. I think what was permitted was a lot of 163 spaces for Bridgewater State when they were signing the lease for this building. So all of this is to say, this is what fits. This is what we think is a reasonable parking amount for the library. It maintains the existing parking. Is that going to be acceptable? In order to submit the grant, we need to either demonstrate that we comply with zoning, and I think as we've established, that's going to be difficult to do, or we have some sort of MOU from the town that says, this seems like a reasonable approach. It's not an approval, it's nothing that is binding, but it's a document that says, we have discussed this with the design team, with the library building committee, and we think this is a reasonable approach to parking that we could support. It would obviously have to go through all of the approvals in order to ratify it. But they want some assurance, I guess, that we're not just coming up with a number and submitting it without having had any discussions with the town. So that's where we are with parking. It's always a little bit of a messy discussion, we find, but.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Did you talk to Mark Grills, the building commissioner? 'Cause
He was on vacation when we met.
Right, but he's been
We've
back for
had-
a couple weeks.
We've had some back and forth with him by email, but we haven't been able to connect.
He might be able to answer all of these questions for you. He may say, no, it's not assembly, it's the other. And I think what we had talked about at site plan review is presenting your logic, so to speak, to him and see whether he would say, oh, yeah, that makes sense to me, or no, you need to tweak it a little bit. Because he's going to be the one that's going to be the deciding person with regard to whether you're meeting or not meeting zoning, or relief might be needed or not needed. And he's a valuable resource, and I'm sure he'd be happy to have those further discussions.
Yeah, as I said, we've been trying to connect and haven't been able to. He's been pretty busy since he's been back. We will
tomorrow.
definitely keep trying, and we'll have that conversation. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood. That's really at this point, we're quite close to being at the end and ready to submit. The plans have sort of solidified. We feel like we're in a good spot there. We're accommodating everything we need to. In all other respects, we feel like we're pretty well positioned. Parking is still a bit of a question for us, and so we want to make sure that we iron that out before the submission. A couple other things just to point out quickly. We do have 2 fire lanes dedicated. One is, that's right, along the southern edge of the children's wing. It kind of runs between the MacArthur School and the library. That, we think, is actually a great opportunity for pedestrian connections from the library over to the open space, whether or not that becomes a town common. We think that it could be a pedestrian way, but also with reinforced areas on either side of the path, so it doesn't look like a road. People aren't thinking, oh, I can just pull my car in here, but stabilize the ground either through an admixture in the soil or some other product to create a fire lane, but also have it planted. Similarly, we have a fire lane that comes in off of 28 that allows us to get to the back, and we've worked out that we fall within the 250-foot limit for hose length. So we feel like with access from parking and the 2 fire lanes, we're in pretty good shape in that regard. There are also, I should point out, dedicated drop-offs for both library and the MacArthur School. The library drop-off gets you as close as we were comfortable getting with a car to the front door. It's immediately next to that covered porch, so you can drop off, get right under cover, and then walk to the entrance. The school has its own drop-off and ADA spaces next to it for facilitating access to the school. That is the ADA accessible side of the school. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that building, but it's a split level, so you walk in, the lift is on that side, so the drop-off is aligned with that. So that's all we have, if you guys have any questions.
I'll open it up to some questions from the members of the board. I want to thank you, Matt and Judy, for all the hard, and the entire committee for an incredible amount of work in a very short period of time. But I want to just make sure I understand, because I like to understand the expectations here. What do you need from us? And I'd like to focus on that, because if you need something from us quickly before the submission, I need to know what it is. We need to know what it is. And it sounds like the parking is an issue, but it may not be, with further discussions with Mark Grills. And so I just want to understand what our timetable is. We're coming up, we have only one more meeting scheduled on December 17th, and we don't.
I won't be here for it.
You won't be here.
Oh, we can run it ourselves.
You can run it yourself. I'm sure
Okay.
Megan can cover it. I mean, there's lots of options.
But I guess that's where I'm going is, what do you need from us when? That would be helpful for your application?
So we don't need approval, obviously. We're not
No,
asking
no,
for any
we're
kind
not
of
a special-
vote or anything like that.
This is not a special granting.
I guess what we would like is to hear from you if you have any concerns, or if there's something that we have not yet thought of that we should, from your perspective, before we submit, so that we've kind of covered all the bases. If there's some requirement somewhere that we have not, that we've overlooked. But if you feel like we have kind of, at this stage, the end of conceptual design, have sort of satisfied all of the various requirements that you can foresee at this stage, then I think we're okay. I mean, we wanted to come to you really as a courtesy, and have a kind of informal conversation so that you understood it's a major project for the town. So we wanted to get your feedback, make sure that you were aware of what it was, but we're not asking you for anything beyond that, really.
Okay, I get, maybe I misunderstood the comment that you made with regard to a memo supporting some adjustments
yeah,
or
that would-
relief.
That would come from the building commissioner.
Okay. I'm sorry, I thought that might have been directed at us. Because that was a little confusing to me, because we don't have any really regulatory authority to oversee this, unless you were somehow in a zoning mix that made us a special permit granting authority, which we're not in this case. We're not. And we appreciate the fact that you're here kind of voluntarily. We appreciate that. So I'd like to open it up to questions from the board. We do have two members who are intimately involved with this, but I'd like to open it up to other members for questions. Who'd like to start?
I'll start.
Thank you.
What possibly are the impacts of the road widening? Your plan doesn't show the existing guardrail, and does Route 28 drain off into that depression?
All good questions, and I don't have answers to any of them. We do, if the road is going to widen, I know Kathy has mentioned that there are plans for street improvements along 28, improving pedestrian access. There's definitely room in terms of where our building is for the street to widen and still be outside of the 30-foot setback. I think right now we're 40 to 45 feet away from the curb on 28. So I haven't seen any plans. I don't know how much the street is going to widen, but there is definitely room there that would not put us in non-compliance in terms of dimensional setbacks.
And Amanda Lima, who is the town engineer, is well aware of this. She was informed at the very beginning, and she was at your meeting too. So she's very aware of where things are.
I don't know about drainage, from 28 into that area. I mean, we do know that it's dry. There are no wetland issues. We at the very beginning of sort of exploring this concept, we talked about that as potentially collecting all of our rainwater. We've moved away from that, and I think it'll be a combination of some rainwater will be directed there, but a lot of it will be, capturing runoff in the parking lot and dealing with it locally in bioretention areas in the parking lot. So it'll be a combination of the two, but I don't know about Route 28 and how that drains.
Right. So there's a lot, I mean, the renderings are very nice, but of course, I saw it right away and I said, where are the sidewalks, guardrail, where's everything that actually exists? You know, that would make this look a little less pretty.
Yeah, and I don't know, as I said, I don't know what the plans are for the widening and what impact that is gonna have. This is obviously a
Right.
conceptual image that doesn't have all of the
Got it.
less pretty things along 28.
No, I understand. Is there a plan by the town to discuss when MacArthur is going to become available? Is there a lease that's ending with
It's a
Bridgewater?
lease that's ending in 2030.
2031, right.
So you'll be done with construction probably 29?
Mid-29, probably. Speaking of that, the other thing that I should mention, just, I'm sure you're aware, this potentially will align with the schedule of the sewer project, the municipal sewer in 28. I think this section of 28 is in the first phase of work to be implemented after the treatment facility is built. The MacArthur building is on septic now, and oddly, the septic is in the woods, but maybe that was because they were anticipating future parking. That septic is 25 years old, it's overgrown, there are trees on top of it and on the leaching field, so we have no idea what kind of condition it's in, but it's definitely, at 25 years old, it's nearing the end of its useful life. We imagine that both the MacArthur building and the library will tie into this future sewer line. There is a problem, or there is a potential that the two will not align in terms of schedule. And the library might be ready before the sewer line is ready. And so, and we can't take the MacArthur School offline from septic for some period of time. So what we have talked about with the committee and with our civil engineer is providing a temporary leaching field that would bridge that gap should we need it. And we would design it, and then when this goes out to bid, we see where we are with the sewer project. And if the sewer project, if it aligns, we scrap the temporary leaching field, but if not, we have that in our hip pocket. We think both the septic chambers and the pump chamber are outside the footprint of this proposed building. So those could stay in place and we could just pump from the existing pump chamber to a new leaching field. So it would just be the cost of the leaching field and a line, probably in the $30,000 range, something like that. So not free, but doesn't kill the project. But that's these are always complicated municipal projects, and that's one of the complications here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Will?
Oh, thank you. First of all, congratulations to everybody here and all the hard work you've put in. And it's very nice to see my old friend Linda Callahan, who I don't remember how drafted me onto the library planning committee in 2017, maybe. I think so. So it has been a long time. And notwithstanding any emotions attached to all three of our amazing libraries that exist in our town, it is thrilling, genuinely thrilling to see this project come to this point. And I recognize, because of my work on the Dennis Yarmouth Intermediate Middle School Building Committee and now the current Emmy Small School Building Committee, that this is just, it's a 4x100 relay, and you're kind of in the first 100 of the 4. Anyway, so I sympathize with where you are, but being able to move this far down the track, to continue the analogy, is to be commended. I don't have anything but supportive things to say. I guess
We're okay with that.
no. More of a parallel comment has to do with, again, some of the similar work I've done. MSBA, which is the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and MBLC. I get the impression they act in some similar ways and also different ways. So maybe I'm guessing this is way too premature, but I'm imagining at some point in the process, it will become clearer what is reimbursable, whatever even that means, and at what percent, and what is outside of reimbursement. And so I would just say, as someone who's about to do the same work for whatever it is that happens with the future of our school district and its elementary school students, that, and in the interest of trying to pass at town meeting, not just this decision, but a future decision on the future of our schools, is to be very, very clear and transparent what is reimbursable and what is not. And I understand that you may not be at that point by the time you have to come to town meeting versus what happens after town meeting when things get really into the nitty gritty. But that is part of the struggle. And I think if you just take a look and Google what's happened at the Nauset School District with the Nauset High School, someone just sent me an article today about what's going on in Lexington. You should be Googling that. It is wild stuff to a scale that you cannot even imagine being on little old Cape Cod. Hundreds of millions of dollars in Lexington.
600,
So
in fact.
there you go. There's the number. $600 million for a high school. So, and this is before, but I also understand, and maybe this is different, and this is why I wanted to ask the question. MSBA has a special set of skills and a special set of standards and a special set of data that they use to make projections to then make funding decisions. Is it true? Is it fair to say the MBLC acts the same way, even if some of those data assumptions may or may not be, I'll just say, Cape Cod cognizant? Does that make sense what I'm getting at? Because we are not Lexington and we're not even Plymouth. And some of the things I worry about for you is that you're going to be forced down a road that may not look so good when we finally get to the money and what it costs and what we're actually delivering. Because I believe that this will be an amazing building and it will serve not just patrons, but also the entire community, as well as be a healthy place for staff, which can't be overlooked and certainly hasn't been. So I'll shut up now and maybe you can give me some insight on the MBLC from all your other work.
So we have a lot of experience with the MBLC. We don't have any experience with the MSBA other than what we read and what we hear from colleagues. So anything I say about that is anecdotal at
Understood.
best. My impression of the two is that the MBLC is more flexible than the MSBA. The projects are much smaller, right? Just
For sure.
school versus library. And their number one interest is in helping communities build libraries. So they don't want to be an impediment. They want to work with you to figure out how can this happen for you. And so there are negotiable things. Parking is a great example. That is the MBLC parking requirement. That said, asterisks, if you come to us and say, well, we can't quite do that, here's a letter that says this is what we've worked out with the town, that works for them. So they are not rigid, they are flexible, and that has been hugely helpful in these processes. In terms of your question about eligible versus ineligible, it's pretty simple, and it's easier to list the things that are ineligible. Paving is ineligible, furniture is ineligible, except for library shelving. That is an eligible cost. Landscaping is ineligible. That's basically it. Everything else is eligible. And the difference between eligible and ineligible is that it is only the eligible costs against which the reimbursement applies. So if 95% of your project is is eligible, and it is probably in that range, 90 to 95%, I would think, of construction costs, then the reimbursement is going to focus on that amount. So let's say it's, that's $20 million is eligible. They have a funding spreadsheet, and it's different for every town, and there are different factors. There's a need factor, there are, different kind of bonus points you can get, and that's pretty clearly spelled out in the grant award for Yarmouth. So we know we can plug in our numbers once we have an estimate in January, which we plan to do. We'll have a detailed estimate. We can take those numbers, minus out the ineligible costs, plug everything else into the MBLC spreadsheet, and have a very exact figure of what the grant reimbursement will be. We think that it's roughly in the 50% range of eligible costs, which is great. And that also includes project costs. It's not just construction costs. So design fees, legal fees, all of the other things that fall into the the soft costs that go along to make the combined project costs are also eligible. Not everything furniture, as I said, is a soft cost that is ineligible. So there is a formula. It's a little bit complicated, but it's nowhere near as complicated, I think, as the MSBA formula. I don't know if that answered your question.
It does. I think, well, when you start to pull out and when you start to fly up a little higher off the ground, and that is our job as the planning board. And thankfully, when they started farming us out to all these different committees, it's a really good thing. And Ken and I have done work together on the RAC. And when you start to pull away from just this project and start thinking, okay, well, there's going to be phase 2 of our sewer system coming, in a to be determined, ask at a to be determined town meeting. There is also going to be whatever the school building committee decides to put forth. I'll just leave it there. So in some ways, what's good is that you're first compared to those other two. What's bad is that if you are not transparent and clear about what reimbursement is and how it's being treated, and clearly you understand it. I'm not saying you don't, but I'm just urging you to be as clear and as transparent as possible when you come to special town meeting and any other future conversations about the money, because the sewer ship has sailed. That is a terrible, mangled analogy. And God, that was terrible. And it remains to be seen what the school building ship is going to be. That has many chapters yet to be written. But I think it's totally reasonable, certainly based on what we heard at the last special town meeting, which had a lot of these issues coming before everybody for their consent. There are lots of people who are super concerned about all these asks lining up like planes trying to land at Logan Airport. And at some point, there may be a decision that says you can't land here. So that's why I'm asking, for the good of everything that this is and for all the work that's being done, the more, and again, I know you know this, and then I'll be quiet, the more that you can really, really, really delineate down to the literal nitty gritty of maybe handing something to people when they walk into town meeting to say, this is what you're voting for. This is the money that you're voting for, and this is where it's going to, and then this is how this is what's going to come back. I think all of these dominoes are starting to line up, and I haven't even said the words muck yet. Now I have. So all of these dominoes are right in front of us, and you guys, in some ways, are the first one, along with the sewer system phase 1. So I apologize, Madam Chair, for the long-winded comment, but it can't go without saying that all of these projects have to be thought about, not just on their own merits, but within the context of the taxpayer as well as the citizen and all of us that hopefully get to benefit from these things, and knowing that there are lots of constituencies in our town that will have different points of view.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I appreciate the point. It's a good one, and it's well taken. And just to be clear, by town meeting, we'll have very clear ideas about what the numbers are, and we'll be able to explain them. And I agree with you, that's incredibly important for people to understand that. So what we will by then have an estimate. We will have had time to process those numbers, work with the MBLC to understand exactly what the grant award is. There's also an additional bonus amount, which is a green incentive reimbursement. So if we meet certain thresholds, and there are a couple of different compliance paths that we can choose, we'll pick up an extra, I think, $400,000 that is a straight reimbursement. And, you know, we're, compared to the other projects, we're a Cessna, not an Airbus, so I'm hoping that we can slip in there. to
Move a
use your
little quicker.
analogy, but
Yeah. Well, I would just say,
we'll know by town meeting what the number.
I think we're also very fortunate as a town to get to work with you, and I only say that because I don't know you, but I've been to the Eastham Library enough times to say, I even said that a few years ago. I might even said to Linda, I said, wow, wouldn't it be cool if the folks that were able to pull off the Eastham Library could do something in Yarmouth? And yet here we are. And so I would just urge anybody, certainly I imagine most of the people in this room have been to the Eastham Library, but anybody watching this meeting and if you haven't been to the Eastham Library, if you're trying to wonder, like, what is it that we're getting ourselves into, please do yourself the favor of going to the Eastham Library the next time you're in Eastham.
Thank you.
So thank you for your work.
Susan, Ms. Britta.
Just a couple of clarifications. We are back at 25,000 square feet,
We are at 25,300.
100, okay. Just briefly, what was,
We're down to
down to, right,
25,300.
yes. Was it some of the supports, what was eliminated from what we looked at 2 weeks ago?
We
Some
eliminated
supports.
one of the two 600 square foot meeting rooms.
Okay,
So we still have
one.
many meeting spaces in the proposed library, but we got rid of one. We felt they were, if of anything, they were a little bit redundant, and so we consolidated to one.
All right. Parking, total is 163? Is that what the number you're using?
No, the total on this plan is 131.
131.
With a provision for an extra 38.
That's where you get up to the 160.
That's where we get up
So right
to-
now, you'd be asking for funding, or the plan is for 131 spaces. That includes the parking in back of the MacArthur building?
That does not.
It does
So
not.
the 19 spaces are in addition to the 131 on this plan.
So the 48 spaces are not,
It is 48 is just what's on the east side of MacArthur.
are you including that in the 131? You are. Who controls that parking?
I don't know. I mean,
So we're assuming they're going to give it up to us.
well, no, we're saying we're preserving those 48 spaces.
Okay.
To maintain whoever's using them.
Okay.
Is going to
all right.
continue to use them.
That's fine. So actually, for people that want to visualize it, I counted the parking spaces at Shaw's. And 131 is almost double, just so people have an idea of what it's going to look like. It will be almost double the size. So it's not that big, but visually, they can get an idea of what they'd be looking at. And then, I mentioned it before, and I'll say it again. I think there should be serious consideration. I know it's going to be expensive, but serious consideration doing solar panels. You've got two select board members that are energy supporters. It's the 21st century, long-term, that's hugely important to the town because it helps defray the cost of running the building. We talked about it before. I know the bid package was solar panel ready, but not solar panels. I don't know how we do it, and I know it adds costs, but I think in the long run, we ought to give serious consideration to a discussion about solar panels being added to the project. I think it makes just a huge difference. I also think it's a huge selling point, a positive selling point, although it could be expensive. And I had one other thing, but I forget what it is. But those are my three big.
Yeah, in terms of solar, I mean, our goal would also be to get solar on the building, in however we do that.
Wasn't there some reimbursable associated with solar?
So solar panels are reimbursable.
Okay.
They're an eligible cost. So if they are part of the bid package, they factor into the MBLC's reimbursement.
Okay.
Generally, we don't see them in bid packages because owners don't want to buy them right away, and some of them want to lease it, they don't want to own it. We are doing a project in Western Mass right now where they decided to purchase the panels for the very reason I mentioned. They are reimbursed. They were at a 75% reimbursement because it's a special case. They're a very small town. And so that was a case where we installed them, the general contractor installed them. We are obligated to provide, but by code, to provide a solar-ready building. That's the minimum. That's the kind of baseline now. We would hope that we can do better, but there are a lot of different ways to do solar, so we should talk about that. There are many different scenarios for how solar gets on a building. And the tax incentives have changed. I think now nonprofits are eligible for a tax credit, whereas they didn't used to be, and so that has changed the calculus a little bit in terms of, what makes sense for a particular municipality. But, so we should definitely talk about it.
Oh, I know what the last thing was. If Mark does send some sort of, memo, we could always send a letter from the board supporting Mark's memo. If he comes up with a parking formula that is reasonable, and they've discussed it with us, we could be supportive in that regard by supporting his memo if we decided to do something like that, rather than a direct letter to the board. We could support whatever Mark wants to do with parking.
I think the memo from Mark is what you're really looking for. You're looking for something from a town staff official, in
Right.
official capacity. So I think that would be sufficient.
Deirdre?
Aye.
Ms. Gagnon?
I think, I don't have any questions. I think I'm just very, very excited to see what you've done in this time. And I was on the library planning committee and put a lot of effort into that first proposal, and it's very exciting to see it coming to fruition, and you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Pendleton.
How are you? Good, thank you. These guys have already asked all my questions, but I want to let you comment a little bit. And the MBLC does have a part of their program is that the town and the group is responsible for some sort of fundraising to help offset some of the costs. Can you kind of talk about that and how that factors into how that will help us in terms with the taxpayer?
Yeah, I know that they have that requirement. I don't know what the specifics of that requirement are. I don't know if it's a percentage, if it's a dollar amount, but they do require every grant recipient municipality to do their own fundraising. So you brought up Eastham, that's a great example. Eastham Library set up a nonprofit foundation that headed up their private philanthropy and raised money for the project, and that money, I believe they raised over $2 million. I can't remember what the 2.5. So they were very successful, and that helps offset the town's obligation. So that's definitely something that we see happening. It's as you said, Tom, it's a requirement. I think the way that it happens varies from community to community, but Situate also we worked with. There was a foundation there. Some do better than others, but we support that effort in whatever way we can too. And I mean, we had a number of meetings with the Eastham Library Foundation and did a couple of fundraising events with them, and so we're happy to support that effort in whatever way we can. But it is a requirement to offset the town's obligation.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to respond to Tom and to let you know, we, as the Library Building Committee, cannot participate in that kind of fundraising. However, Linda Callahan, our library friend, has been researching and doing a lot of background work, and in terms of how to establish a foundation that could do some fundraising. Right now, she's kind of one-woman show, so we need to bulk up that arm of our fundraising, and we just can't participate. So we're aware of this. We have an amazing person working on it. She has lots of leads, and I guess we're at like that beginning square that Matt showed you on the whole timeline as far as this fundraising, but we're very aware of it.
Mr. Smith.
Yeah, no real.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. No real specific questions. I do want to touch on what Deirdre said, that amazing work, what you've done so far. I did want to follow up, though, on the $400,000 green built building threshold and kind of tie it into what Susan was commenting about solar, assuming that that would tie back into that threshold if solar was put onto this building. And how much more is your estimate on the construction cost to meet a green building threshold? Any ideas on that?
So, a couple of things. I don't think that you would need to go so far as to put solar on the building in order to get this reimbursement from the state. I think the compliance paths are, I think it's LEED Gold certification, which we could meet without solar on the roof if we were providing a solar-ready building.
Okay.
So there are different ways to get there. If we put solar on the building, we're not going to get an extra $400,000. There's a cap on that reimbursement. And I believe $400,000 is the max that the town will get for that if we show compliance, which I think we will. Generally, the reimbursement covers the cost to pursue LEED, not that you have to pursue LEED, and then still pay some dividends to the town. Usually, we find that exercise is about $100,000 in fees, consulting fees to go through the whole process of coordinating with USGBC and all of the fees for submitting and the application fee and the review fees and all that. So
to pursue LEED for $100,000, potentially reimburse me $400 from the state?
Yeah.
That's a win in my book, so.
Right.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Yes,
Follow-up question.
Ms.
Is
Ritter.
the gold, is the gold lead? Is that what your goal is for that building? Gold?
I mean, we haven't set a target. I think if we are going to set a target, I would set a target of LEED Gold.
Definitely. Maybe you could explain a little what exactly that means. I'm very familiar with what goes into that, but I don't think a lot of residents in particular understand what you have to do to get to gold and the benefits of getting to gold in terms of the environmental impacts.
Yeah, I mean, LEED is one metric
Right.
that is used to measure sustainability. It is not the only one, but it is the most
It's the
popular
dominant
one.
one.
It's sort of the standard. It's the one that's the most recognized. There are more now than there used to be, but they were the first. The U.S. Green Building Council established this and regulates it. There are 4 different levels. There's baseline certification, there's silver certification, gold certification, and platinum certification. So gold is better than the midpoint in their sort of larger framework of sustainability, measuring sustainability. I can't tell you exactly what you have to do to get to gold, but it's a higher standard, obviously, than the baseline for LEED. And the good news is that the Massachusetts Energy Code gets you a good bit of the way there already. Massachusetts is.
And the building materials get you a good way.
Yeah, and
Totally
LEED looks at all different things. It looks at the site, it looks at water consumption, it looks at daylighting, it looks at energy use, occupant comfort, materials and resources. There are many categories that sort of factor in when they do their classification.
And the goal is to make these buildings more sustainable, using less energy.
That's right.
And making them, that's the goal of all of those categories, but and almost all public buildings now, whether they're state, federal, libraries or whatever, people try to get them built in a sustainable manner so that the drain to maintain them, you can say to the citizens, this is what we're doing to save you money on maintenance and on energy costs. So
That's right.
it's as he said, it's a win-win to try to have these, meet these standards.
Right.
Pays off.
Anyone else? Tom, did I cut you off there? You're good? Okay. I just have a couple of questions, Matt. When you mentioned the green incentives, is that what we've been talking about here with solar and, okay, that's great. The look of the building. I'm not an architect, although my brother is. But it's, to me, it's a Frank Lloyd Wright-ish. It's not Cape Cod-ish, which in that corridor, if you were a motel or a hotel in the HMOD 1 district, you would have to follow our architectural designs, which is Cape Cod-y. And, we do get to look at those. And we have we've had, not clients, but proprietors up and down the corridor who we have moved in that direction to have it more Cape Cod-y with small Cs. In fact, one housing project that just came before us was very box-like, very modernist. My own opinion was a bit brutalist. They're not in play anymore because they're going to rethink what they want on the site to begin with. My conflict here is that I really like it. You feel like you're in the wood, again, it's very pretty, as Peter had said. You're kind of in the woods, there's a lot of glass. I like the fact that it's, the roofline structure is very different. But I'm just thinking outside the box here about all the other components of the Route 28 corridor where we sit here and say, not Cape Cod enough. Go back and do something different. And I'm wondering if you got any, was there any back and forth on the design? I guess that's where I'm going. Because at this point, there's no way you can change it, you don't have time. But I'm just curious as to how you landed on that particular, more modern, open design.
I'll let Judy talk about from the committee's perspective. I'll give you my perspective, which is we're a firm that does contemporary work, and so that's where we start. But we also take context very seriously, and so I guess my question back to you would be, how do you define Cape Cod with a small c? Because, you know, we work in Massachusetts, so we work on historic properties, we work in historic contexts, historic districts all the time. And, you know, we need to be, and we are genuinely sensitive to those environments. But even in a non-historic context is important. And at the same time, this is an important civic building for the town. It shouldn't look like the motel next door. It shouldn't look like, you know, a school. It should be distinctive, but it should also work in the context of everything else. So we do that sometimes through scale. You know, we don't want it to be too big in a context. Eastham is, I'll use that as another example here, because that was a 17,500 square foot addition to a 300 square foot historic building in a residential neighborhood on Cape Cod. And it's a contemporary building, but it's a contemporary building that has exposed wood structure, wood shingle cladding, wood siding. And so materiality plays a big part in sort of tying that into the Cape Cod context. It doesn't look like the houses, it doesn't look like the historic church next door, but it fits in its scale, it fits in its materiality, it's approachable. And I think those are things that we see as possible here, that it doesn't have to look like everything else on Route 28. It should be, we think, distinctive. But it should also fit. It shouldn't feel too alien. And I think some of that is material, some of it's scale. As I said, we are contemporary architects. That's sort of our default setting. But we also want to be sensitive to that context. It has the benefit of being a little bit tucked away, right? It's visible from 28, but there is a little bit of freedom that we think is afforded by the fact that it has this kind of veil in front of it. And I think that can work to its advantage. We are anticipating this as a mass timber building, so that means 100% wood framed, exposed. Eastham Library actually isn't 100%. There's some steel in there. This would be all exposed wood structure. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Norwell Public Library that was completed in 21. That's a similar type of construction. It's very sustainable. It's nice to look at. There are studies about occupant comfort in buildings that are all wood, with great benefits. So we see that as a real, and there's been a lot of movement in that direction in the industry in general. So that's sort of our perspective. But as I said, this is the beginning of design. We will have opportunities to continue that conversation at other meetings with you to debate how well we tie into the Cape. The other thing I'll leave with is the Cape actually has a great modernist tradition. If you go back and you look in the 50s and 60s, all over the Cape, there are these incredible houses by Walter Gropius and others that were practicing in Boston at the time. And so that's also part of the Cape history. And it's important, I think, for people to remember that.
I appreciate that. And I asked that question only, not because I personally don't like it. I really like it. I really like it a lot. But I'm just kind of sensing that there might be questions that come up because we have acted on other projects in the corridor and moved them in the direction which we think improved it. I'll use Yarmouth Commons and Yarmouth Gardens as two perfect examples of what came in as a box, and our town planner and others moved them to have setbacks, to have dormers, to have roof lines that were different, to have columns. So we have moved different projects in ways that we think improve the corridor. I'm not saying in any way that this wouldn't, but I think it's just a question I think that may come up. It may very well come up. It may come up.
Fully expected.
And it has come up. People have heard words like modern and.
Well, it's going to sit next to the school,
Yes.
and across from Town Hall.
And it is something that we have kicked around, and initially we said, how about some bricks?
Yeah.
It could be a brick building.
And
But
one
we're
other.
not there yet.
Yeah.
We're not there yet with, so, the other thing I think has happened on the committee, and this might be something that we need to communicate more clearly to the community, is that experience of being in that building and having a book and looking out at the trees, that is so valuable. And that takes so much of that site and maximizes that experience while providing all the services the library provides, so that maybe the inside is really important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more so than the outside. I
Yeah.
hear you. I hear you. And on that, I think it's wonderful, and I've always been impressed by how architects think, because I have no idea how my brother thinks, but the fact that you saw something in the pit.
Yeah.
That's a word we have
That's a
not
word.
used.
We haven't used that one.
Naming rights for the pit. I mean, we could make some money there, but the fact that you could see that could be a positive thing is just remarkable to me, and to be able to salvage as many of those trees as possible is really important. I just have one other silly question, but I am a fan of libraries, and having lived in New York City, the Lions are my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Where are the stacks? Are we still going to have stacks of books, or are they in the basement that you can call up electronically? I mean, we're still going to have, where are we moving modernly for stacks? Because if you go to the South Yarmouth Library, nobody's walking in the stacks.
So, I mean,
They take up so much room.
they do take up room, and the,
Excuse me, would it be possible to see the slide
yeah, actually,
of
Kathy,
showing the building
Yeah,
program?
I looked at them. I mean, it's
PDF.
the whole building is, yeah.
As he's explaining
Yeah.
it.
if you put up the floor plan,
Yeah,
I
just-
can show you. I mean, you'll,
A few slides back.
that's it. That's it.
Yeah, there they are.
So, I'm
There's your
gonna risk using this pointer. There we go.
These are the stacks.
Okay, so these are stacks, these are stacks, these are stacks.
Children's stacks.
These are the adult stacks, and there's seating in between. Children also have stacks. What's important to mention, though, is that visibility is really important in public libraries. We want the staff to be able to see everywhere.
Circulation desk has to be able to see everything.
That's right, and so the circulation desk is in the middle, right here, and all of these stacks are 4 shelves high, so you can see over all of them when you're at the circulation desk, or when you're walking into the building, you can see from one end to the other. Where we have bookcases along walls, they tend to be higher, 7 shelves high. But when they're in the middle of a room, we try to keep them low. It's better for occupants, it's better for staff. And that's really kind of the MBLC's starting point. And so it's been a lot of back and forth to make sure that we are able to accommodate the collection plus projected growth of the collection in the shelving that we're showing here, and also balance that against sightlines and amount of seating. So there's some push and pull there, but there's still plenty of books. The stacks are not closed stacks, they're open. Anybody can go and get a book.
It's just the technology of them taking up so much room, and other libraries, and my other favorite library happens to be in Austin, which is ridiculously unbelievable. It's a fabulous library.
Yeah.
But the whole notion that it consumes so much space when they could be in the basement, and there could be a trolley like they use at the New York City Library on 42nd Street. You know, bring it up and you get your book. I mean, I'm just wondering if MLBC is moving in that direction. In
Not-
any case, I mean, it sounds like
for-
they still want to see a plan like this.
Yeah, not for small town libraries.
Yeah.
I mean, an urban library
Of
like
course.
the New York Public Library, I mean, the Boston Public Library has some closed stacks, special collections and things like that, but for a library like this, for a town library, first of all, people want to be able to see books and browse books. Not everybody necessarily knows when they go to the library what book they want. Part of the joy of going to a library is sort of seeing what's there and discovering something that you may not have known. It's also a staffing issue. If all the stacks are only controlled by staff, it puts a huge burden on staff. And generally speaking, staffs are already, you know, smaller than they should be at most of these libraries. So I think it's a little bit of both of those things.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? I don't want to keep you any longer. I want to thank you so much, and thank you, Judy, and the committee for all your hard work. We really appreciate it. And anything we can do to support the project, you know, let us know.
We appreciate you guys taking the time
Next
tonight.
big step is your getting together with Mark Grills. I think he will be a real source of comfort.
I'm not sure many people would say that, but I'm glad to hear that.
Metaphorical.
Source of comfort.
Anxiety about
sort of
parking
way.
spaces.
Great.
I think he might.
Say that, but I
he
didn't
might-
think other people.
Yeah.
Calming presence.
Yeah, he'll be a calming presence regarding parking spaces, I hope. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent, thanks.
You.
Next on our agenda is the draft
Please, Andy.
short-term rental study. Yesterday, Deidre, myself, and Tom attended the Affordable Housing Trust meeting where the UMass Amherst Donahue Institute had a presentation on their draft short-term rental study, which Kathy has provided to all of us in our packets.
I can provide the study. It's not,
Oh.
it's kind of draft,
Draft.
more internal, looking at first before being distributed.
Did everyone got a copy of it, though, right?
Got it
Electronically.
Electronic.
Electronically. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So I'd like to open a discussion about it, and I'll apologize in advance. This study has got me kind of flummoxed a little bit, because I went back and read the contract as to why we're doing it. And the way in the presentation yesterday was, I thought, very well done by UMass, but I'm still not unsettled, but confused. It seems to me the study has two parts. One, a really terrific demographic profile of the town that I'd never seen before. Really good. And our expert here, I'm going to go to you soon, because it was like your name was written all over it. They take that, and then I'm looking for some correlation between that and the second part, which are all the recommendations. And it felt to me like it's two separate reports. I could have written the second half on the recommendations. Those caps and percentages, they stand alone. They have nothing to do with the profile of the town. And that was where I was very, as Kathy, I was fumbling like I am now yesterday, trying to explain the two don't seem to me to be connected. And I'm not sure if I read correctly the purpose of the,
Yeah, the engagement letter was,
I mean, it was, the town of Yarmouth, acting through the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust, has engaged the university to conduct a study on various aspects of short-term rentals
what
and
does that even
seasonal
mean?
housing
Yeah.
in the town of Yarmouth, with the goal of providing reasonable and actionable recommendations to minimize costs and maximize benefits. Of what? I'm trying not to be critical of UMass, because I think there are pieces of this report that are really quite good and informative. I just don't know where it's going to help us in terms of our work that we need to do before special town meeting a year from now, when the STR expires.
I think,
So I'd like to, Kathy, you
think that was one
ran
thing-
the meeting, so.
yeah, I think that, I didn't run the meeting, I ran the Zoom.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
It's important, but it's a little bit different. I think Mark Forrest did have a question about, clearly identifying what the problem is and then targeting strategies that would address that very specific problem. And I think that that might be what you're talking about. They've identified some data, but they haven't clearly identified necessarily the specific Yarmouth concerns and then the specific strategies that they would recommend. I think they gave a lot of good strategies.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think they did a great job of looking at other communities, and I think we can dig even deeper with the links of different communities that they were talking about. But I'm not sure that there was any direct correlation of saying, oh, yeah, we need to put caps on these limiting short-term rentals right away because of X, Y, and Z. They are limited to a certain amount by the data that's available, and I think you'll find that throughout the report, where they're kind of saying, we had a small sample here, and we're not sure we got all of the data there, and that type of thing. So they're a little bit limited on that. But I think that was basically Mark's comment as well, Mark Forrest's comment about it.
Yeah. So I'd like, Deirdre, I'd like your, you were there, and I know you dug deep into it.
Well, I really loved the data. I mean, it was it really did speak to me, and I thought they did a fantastic job, because there are so many groups that don't really understand how to process those databases, and they did a great job. And I thought that Kathy and Joanne and Mark Forrest, and, there were really good comments about you need to set the goal and the objectives. It's not there. They aren't tied together. And one thing, as looking at all the different solutions or possibilities that they proposed, I started realizing that, I've been in so many short-term rentals on the Cape from my childhood in a huge extended family where some people had a house and some people rented and all that. And then I was a seasonal employee for all through college, and then back with my own family, renting 2-week rentals all the time. And I think what this is lacking is a little bit more discussion of the era when Yarmouth had the most hotel rooms on the Cape. Everybody keeps mentioning that, but I haven't seen the numbers or the issues. But in all the times that I was renting cottages, you couldn't rent it for 3 or 4 nights. You had to get weeks, and if you needed 3 or 4 nights, you'd go to a motel. And I think that that's where the current Airbnb mode is really changing things. That one of their charts showed that the average stay is 4 nights, and that was not that was never ever the case. And that if we somehow could work in a comparison to the era when there were lots of motel rooms and there were also lots of big families, and now we don't have either of those quite as much. But somehow I think that might explain if they are a problem. But I think that's what Mark Forrest brought up. Are they really a problem? And I think that's something that the tourism economy is so central to the town that I think that there's no way that they've defined it as a problem. And I'm not sure if I'm.
Yeah. No, Ken.
Sue, you want to go first?
Actually, Kathy, I told you I had done several, I have about a page and a half of questions and comments. I sent it to my office to get printed, and of course, the internet went down today, so I couldn't print anything. Couldn't get my email to print it, but I will make sure you get it. Similar to your reaction, I thought I couldn't figure out, I always thought the research question was supposed to be, does a short-term rental program impact long-term housing, or what do they call it, year-round housing? I don't think they made that link. In fact, if anything, I think one of the conclusions they came to was that we're in pretty good shape.
Maybe
One
that's
of the
the
big
answer.
problems was summer employees, and we took care of the summer employees by our program to. So that's the impression I got, was after having read all the, I said, well, we're not such a bad place here, we've done a pretty good job. But I'm not, and I think that's what that whole study was intended to do, because there's a whole theory, so the whole Nantucket syndrome, do these short-term rentals impact on the ability to provide long-term? And if you're looking just at Yarmouth, the answer is not in our community. That's the impression I got. I just don't, if they were trying to make that case, I don't think they did. And that's because the data said it's just not there. Lots of times they say we're very similar to Barnstable, we're very similar to Dennis. We don't have a huge problem. I just was kind of, as I rolled through it, I said, well, this is not so bad. This is not so bad. But I was never quite sure what the whole thing was supposed to do. I thought it was supposed to be, and then the other thing, though, they did make a good point, though, the impact that the internet has made on real estate renting and the whole rental process, and their inability to get good data. Because some of these sites that the data's not good, and they're trying to make some projections based on data that's really not good. But it's changed the whole rental market. People do a lot of this stuff now online. And some of the stuff that's online does not get recorded anywhere. You just do it online, and the person you're renting from doesn't report anything to Mark, doesn't. So there's a whole sort of black hole out there. I don't think it's hugely significant in Yarmouth. I think the numbers in Yarmouth were pretty good about people reporting. I think we had 1,400 units, and I think just under 1,000 were reporting, so that's not so bad. But that was it. I just didn't think it was as researchy as I thought it was going to be. I didn't see any conclusions that I thought were compelling to say, oh, you've got to do something. You've got to change something. If we reestablish or renew whatever we have to do in November of 2026, is that when it comes out, 2026?
Yeah.
Yes.
That program, our program seems to be working.
I think they like to provide the data and let you guys interpret it.
Yeah.
I think there's some of that. When I read it, it's like the town may want to look at this, the town may want to investigate this. So they're just kind of presenting the information, and you can kind of decide. There's no conclusion
Right.
that I think you're ever going to get them to say, short-term rentals don't seem to be a huge problem in the town of Yarmouth.
That's the conclusion I drew.
Conclusion you might get from the data, but
Their consulting for Provincetown, though, did make a conclusion.
Yes.
And the conclusion was, it's not a big deal.
okay.
They had a lot of if you do this, then this, if you do, they just kept giving you if statements with this result, but no real strong recommendation on where to do and where you are. I mean, that's what I kept reading into it, and I agree. It's part one, it's part two, but there's no bridge.
Yeah, I mean, I just was, Madam Chair, I was going to touch on the hotel piece for a second, because that was my hat for almost 30 years, running hotels in the town of Yarmouth. And the whole short-term market absolutely has changed the hotel world, not just in Yarmouth, but everywhere.
Everywhere.
And, the people are shorter stays, that absolutely is number one. The days of coming to the Cape for a week, that's changed years ago. They used to be 7-day stays in the hotel world. Now it is 2-3-day stays in the hotel world and 4 and 5-day stays in the short-term market. People's traveling habits have changed. They don't want to stay in a hotel room, so that's affected how hotels can be profitable and stay in business. That's why a lot of the smaller hotels on 28 that couldn't cut it as a hotel are renting their rooms to employees, because that's where they see the market at. I mean, if you're a hotel and selling the right room in the right location at the right price, you're going to be busy still. Some people don't want to deal with, getting up in the morning and making breakfast, or, cleaning a room, making their own bed, whatever. That's why you go to a hotel, to get away from that stuff. But the short-term market absolutely has changed the rental world, and you're not going to put genie back in the bottle. It's, how you manage it. You touched on Provincetown. They made a lot of recommendations, and Provincetown reacted to it. They have limited short-term rentals in certain parts of the town because it was getting oversaturated, because it had changed the whole rental market, the housing market. I did real estate and sold a couple properties up there, and the market exponentially was driven by the fact that you couldn't get inventory because people were using their home as a moneymaker. And that's you know, is it a problem in Yarmouth? I can't tell you that sitting here tonight, but I do think we gotta take a good, hard look at these recommendations as a committee and think about what would be best to preserve the character of Yarmouth, keep the hotel industry in this town robust, and make the right decisions. Because, you know, you touched on it, there's 1,400, is that the number that's in here?
I think that was the
That
number.
was what they see.
That's the number that
Registered.
They identify
DOR
it.
has
They identify
registered,
it.
but they don't know whether people are no longer renting it and have just not taken their name off. I asked,
The ground.
I asked,
I'd like to tell you that that number, I believe, is way more than 1,400.
Probably is.
Really.
have 933 that registered with the Board of
And
Health.
that's great. I'm glad there's 933 honest citizens that are doing it the right way. I really mean that. But I also believe that that number 1,400 is light.
Low, is low.
Yes.
Okay.
Peter? Thank you for the email today. That was an eye-opener.
I just can't believe this cost $85,000, if these numbers are correct. Is that,
What?
is that right?
The study?
Fixed price for this, inclusive labor, materials, and travel, is $86,700.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that was part of what you sent us, so.
I don't remember.
So, yeah, to a bit of everybody's point, short-term rentals weren't mentioned until page 30 of this thing. And the front half of this was pretty, but that's what they do. They're a data-driven company. So you would expect to get that first 30 pages. It's just a matter of getting out of the next 30, what can help us make a decision. And there's just not enough information there to help us make a decision.
If we have to make a decision at all.
Or use it as support to make a
Maybe that's
decision.
the decision.
Yeah.
And to Ken's point, I asked him at our meeting, can you sort of correlate the impact on rooms tax? Either collections from hotels, has it gone down? Are short-term rentals taking away from hotels? What are the metrics we look at?
It
We
is,
talk to the owners. Can you give us a list of who you spoke to? It's just so that when we have a meeting here, we know who's coming to the mic.
Right.
We can have a context of where they're speaking from.
I asked the same question
So
with
they put all
stakeholders.
those, Bobby J said, oh, I'm worried about this or that. And I'm like, well, does he own a motel? Because I'd like the
Right.
understanding of where his comments are coming from, the context of where the comments are coming from. So hopefully they can maybe add some of that, Kathy. I don't know if they can tell us who they spoke to, or, that would be helpful to know.
Yeah, there's a list of people that I think they spoke to. Mary Wagon has that list.
I don't think they talked to any homeowners who rent.
What does that
I did.
Sorry, what does that
Meaning
mean?
me, I'm going to leave for a month.
Short-term rental
That rent their own house
I
out.
do a short-term rental at my house.
operator.
We
I don't
couldn't
think
tell.
they talked to anyone
Right.
who is a short-term rental landlord, if you want to put it that way.
And I think those are huge, like you're
That's
talking,
a
whether
huge
they're
opinion
registered or not.
that we haven't heard here.
Everybody says, oh, I'm going away for a week, I better rent the house out. It's really common.
Yeah. The other thing, I'm jumping ahead and interrupting you here, Peter, but what I thought today when you sent the email with the Airbnb data
All right.
link,
Yep, yep.
and I opened it up,
Yep.
there were 906 homes.
Right.
I would love to see a crosswalk of those homes and addresses
Yep.
to what's on the registry. Because my sense is there's going to be some gaps.
Yeah.
Because there were 900 on just the Airbnb site, right? I think that link was that, whatever that
Air
ROI.
but it is only Airbnb. It's not Venmo,
VRBO?
not Venmo.
VRBO?
yeah, right.
So they used AirDNA is another.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
what
there's
it was.
Air ROI, which is what I first sent, I think, today,
Yeah.
which was cited in the Nantucket
Right.
article. And both of them have, I think, different, the data is probably maybe very similar or the same, but presented differently. That second link I sent today, that Kathy sent back, good data link, has a lot of what was already in our report, in this STR report. So, it was out there. It's not as though Donahue, had to do too much to get some of that, so it was there. We just need to find a way to make it useful to help us make a decision.
I think you asked some
Also-
good questions in your email as well that I gave everyone a copy of.
Right. Because that's been one of my questions I'd love to know the answer to, and that second website I saw some of the houses that were listed there today, and I know they sold within the last couple of years. So I mean, it would be great to say, oh, no, the last, we know Yarmouth has the lowest median sale price on the Cape for homes, or it did at the end of '24, and it probably hasn't changed at all. Where houses, I mean, one of those sites tells you air ROI. Yarmouth is ranked 6th in Massachusetts. Ahead of us was, I think, Dennis, Nantucket, Cambridge, Boston. So we're identified as one of the, I think it was 8th. One of the top 10 towns out of 351, if we want to look at it that way, that being promoted as a good place to come and buy a house and turn it into a short-term rental. And here's all the metrics, here's all the data to do that. Here's our average occupancy, and this is all taken from the sites that do the marketing and the rental, right?
Did you notice one of the major reasons? Low regulation.
Regulation.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Low
So,
regulation.
Our house is being purchased, taken off the market, and turned into short-term rentals. They're certainly being promoted as such, or Yarmouth is being promoted as such.
Right.
And is that a concern? I mean, are we taking, I mean, is it, did we lose 10 or did we lose 50? And I mean, were there a couple of dozen houses priced at you can't get a house under 500 now. 500, 475, 550, 650, that could have went to a first-time home buyer or a small family.
Yep.
That were scooped up and turned into a short-term rental. Because it's so easy to do. It's not, I shouldn't say it's easy to do. There's a lot of work to it. But it's certainly made to look easy, and a lot of people are doing it, So,
And the other thing I was thinking of yesterday is those property owners here, we know if they are not residents, because they have to pay a personal property tax. So I was hoping that there'd be some, again, crosswalk between all those residences, the assessor has this, where are the homes, where are the households, and who's paying personal property taxes? Because if you're not a resident here, you have to pay it. It's nominal. It's a nominal tax. I mean, I paid it when I was living in New York and had a home here. But there is a record of it. So where is that database, and how can we get at that?
I thought they did do that.
Well,
I didn't.
Compare the
they may have.
assessors,
They may
the
have.
assessors, the addresses that they got, I thought, from the DOR to the assessors database, and that's why they were finding that there weren't that many.
There weren't that-
It was about corporate. They had a whole page on what they thought, and they found only 19 or so that were, that they
corporately owned.
thought were corporate. And, you can, whatever they were, but if I were to look on the list, I could look up my dear friend who lives on Fallon's Pond, who lives in Cambridge, and who rents her house.
Yeah.
Is she on the list?
They did say that the vast majority of, they may not live on the Cape, but they live in Massachusetts. The vast majority of people that have two homes.
Second homes, yes, they do live
So that's one thing, which I thought was interesting. And then the whole corporate thing, there weren't that many.
No,
Weren't that many.
that is one area where they said that is not an issue for us.
Yeah, yeah.
I hope that's true.
Yeah.
now, there are a couple of companies, not necessarily corporate, but companies like Del
Oh,
Mar,
you were talking
Vacasa,
about Del Mar.
they're very well-run rental business, company business. And I think they had 14 rentals in Yarmouth. They were the number one license, I
Owner.
don't know. Every property's probably individually licensed, so it's unlike a corporate that would, license them under their corporation or something. But Vacasa was another one.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're right down
Yep.
the street here,
Yep.
so.
Yep.
So they're.
There's a handful.
There's a handful.
There's a handful in Yarmouth.
Peter, are those databases that you use, are they proprietary that you've bought access to? Or
The links I sent you are out there now.
they're out there
Yeah,
and they're available?
yeah. I don't know about the Airbnb,
I think Airdini you have to pay
They,
for.
they said that was proprietary
yeah, but you
yesterday.
can log in and pay a fee and you can get access to it.
No, at one level, we live in a capitalist society, and we all benefit from that. And our culture and our society, housing has got like two faces. It's an opportunity to make money, but it's also a human issue of a place to live. And this is where the two of them are clashing at the macro level, is the ability of people to make money from housing, renting it, and the need for the human dynamic, which we need. And when you do the corporate piece, or the money, that's what capitalism, people will try to make money, and you can't blame them. If you can make $5,000 a week renting out your garage, go for it, because that's the way our society works. So this is at the macro, it really is an interesting conversation, because where do you draw the line and say to someone, you can only make X? Versus, how do we accommodate people that need someplace to live, a reasonable place to live?
Well, I used this analogy yesterday when they got to the recommendations. And, the recommendations on limits. So I described it as a box. Short-term rentals have got these boundaries here in Yarmouth. And you're asking us to consider these recommendations that shrink that box or make it tighter. Does housing pop out?
Yeah.
Does a house pop out for someone who needs it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. What might pop out is a benefit to the hotels.
Right.
That could definitely happen. You start to shrink that down, maybe. In the off-season, I think our hotels are doing pretty well during the height of the season. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how I think they are. But that was so all of those recommended strategies seem to me to be somewhat constraining. And my question that for us, I guess, to consider is this a problem that requires us to look at additional constraints on this? And because we need to think about this going forward to special town meeting, we need to have an amendment of some kind on this. And so we need to start thinking about how we want to shape it,
Why do we need an amendment?
because it expires.
Oh, I thought we could just renew it without an amendment. Do we need to?
Well, we need to take action on it.
Oh, yeah,
Something.
I would
I'm sorry.
agree, yeah.
I'm
So
sorry.
I thought you
We
needed to
need
make
to
some
take
change.
action on
Okay,
it.
okay.
In some kind of action.
Yeah.
Can I ask an action
Or
question?
no action.
Just let it expire, but I don't
But
think we
that
should
would
do
not be a
that.
good
No,
idea.
that wouldn't be.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Mr. Bernstein.
I guess I have a process question here about this, which is, this is a draft.
Yep.
And this draft lives at the Affordable Housing Trust.
Yes.
So are they looking for some sort of response, a formal response from us, Deirdre? And if so, okay. And then even if we send them something, where are they in their timeline? And when does this become final? And then what does that even mean? And then what happens to it? Besides the fact that we have a thing that we have to reckon with on our own timeline. I'm just trying to understand.
We don't know that.
Okay.
We do know one thing, that they are pushing to go to the select board soon, I thought. That's what I thought I
Was there
heard.
a date?
December
Was
16th.
there a date?
Yeah.
Trying to
With this
get,
draft or with a final, or do they have to
No.
vote
They
to
were-
recommend it, or I
No,
don't understand?
Kathy, if I'm remembering, Mary was moving to connect back with them.
My understanding from the end of that meeting was that, I said I had some comments that I wanted to, and I knew that the planning board had some comments, and that a smaller subgrouping of like Bob Lawton, Bob Rittenauer, myself, and Mary, were going to get together and review all of the comments to see what we would then give to UMass Donahue. So we weren't like giving them all this misdirection, go over here, and then somebody else say, go over here, go over there. So kind of come up with a coalesced message to them of what we were looking for modifications. Mary's been out sick, so I haven't been able to touch base with her on that. But I think the key is I think, like exactly what Peter did with his email, and you had some edits, and send me something, and then I'll distribute it to this group, and then we can kind of have a discussion and talk about it.
But it sounds like, if I'm hearing you correctly, there's only a week or so, maybe 10
I
days.
don't recall
If you're
that.
going to be
no,
at the select
that
board
date.
in 2 weeks.
I don't recall
No,
that date.
I may have misunderstood. They were talking about their next meeting, which is.
That's their next
December
meeting.
16th.
That's their next meeting.
Their next meeting, I'm sorry.
Next meeting.
That is definitely
The
the.
select board.
No.
Affordable Housing Trust.
It also is the next meeting of the select, it
And
also,
that's not the
No, so,
community housing committee that I'm on, so I'm not involved in.
Okay.
Oh, you're not on the Housing Trust, that's
I'm not
right.
on the housing trust, so it gets kind of confusing because of the people move around on all of it. And I know Mary has mentioned a few times that it's the Affordable Housing Trust that paid for this.
well, so then just to continue, Madam Chair, if I can, on the process itself, if we're working backwards from, let's say, a November 26th special town meeting, we're working backwards, when does this become final? January, February? I don't know. Who controls when it becomes final? And then, we just have to think about our
Well,
timelines.
I think what we want to do is, as Kathy has suggested, this has been, I think, a very good discussion. And we all come from different places. I mean, we have an expert on hotels. We have an expert here on the American Community Survey. We have, General Services Administration sitting right here.
Real estate.
Forget this guy right
Real
here.
estate.
Forget this guy.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, and that guy.
And that
That guy who gives us secret codes to get into Airbnb sites,
Whoa.
where I can spy on my neighbors.
astounded.
I was amazed, Peter. I pressed that button.
It was a link, Madam Chair.
link.
Let's
I
not,
know.
let's not mischaracterize codes.
You can go on it yourself,
Codes launched from nuclear weapons,
select
Madam
the
Chair.
right
They don't-
town.
I give all credit to the Nantucket
Gate was just,
Strike whatever I just said.
this is like signal, our
He
own
just
signal
wanted to-
gauge.
He's showing his sources like a good college paper. He's showing his good sources.
Strike the sword. Let's do as Kathy has asked, and try to formalize your comments, and she can be our voice at this subgroup. I think,
The clearer you are, the better.
yeah, and I think the tone of our comments are very different than what we heard yesterday. And I appreciate the candor here, because it's really important. I will generalize the comments yesterday as everyone was very complimentary.
Of course they would be.
Right.
And so I am really pleased with the candor here, and I think we should, carry that through in terms of our comments to Kathy. I think that's important. There was one table, if I could ask you to look at Table 4, which is a matrix that lists, it's way in the back,
The end.
page 61. Table 4 lists the possible things that you can do to SDRs, and then, all the things that it might affect. One column is missing, and Mary brought it up yesterday, and it was on my list. There's nothing about SDR revenues to us, whether, positive or negative. And so I drilled down on the very first column, which was, beneficial to housing. I said, who said? I don't see any evidence.
Was one of my comments.
I
No
didn't
data.
see any evidence.
That was the conclusion. There was no data to support that
Yeah.
conclusion.
So anyway, if you could focus on that, I thought that, and if that table becomes, out there, permanent, it's a report that the town has, I think, I'm concerned about that. I'll just say I'm concerned about that.
I would read
Because
the
I don't
next-
think that,
I'd read the text too, because that tries to explain.
Above the table.
it does, it does.
No, below the
And
table.
but no one's going to read the text, Kathy. Someone's going to pick the table, and even though the text above says, kind of ignore all of those things we put in the table, because we really don't know, it doesn't matter. The table is what's going to get launched.
Maybe you don't have the table.
Maybe you don't have the table.
And in that table, think, tourism workforce. What is that?
What is that?
What is that?
What does that have to do with the title of the article, which is short-term
Right.
rental report? That's somebody else's report.
I couldn't agree with you more, Peter.
It's not going to be affected by short-term rentals.
No. So, anyway, just, if you could, again, I appreciate everyone's candor, and Kathy will be our voice.
Yep, maybe if I could get them by Monday, that would be good, because I don't know when they're going to schedule this meeting.
Yeah, and I'll send over some armor for you, a bulletproof vest or something. Anyway, no pun.
I think you guys are looking at it more closely because you know that you guys are gonna be the ones who are gonna have to take this and interpret it in some way. Where's the gaps in identifying which of these things are actually gonna help us? But one of the things that was discussed at the Affordable Housing Trust meeting was applying for a DLTA grant through the Cape Cod Commission and the possibility of maybe trying to extend, if this doesn't answer everything, maybe they can we can work with the commission, they can delve deeper into some of these suggestions and some of this data and help us formulate some ideas.
It's DLTA.
Oh, it's a grant program.
It's a grant
through-
program.
yeah.
Every year you can apply for
Yeah,
grants.
yeah. They don't have a ton of money, and they have like $194,000. They wanted to do it for that, and then also for getting more investigating into seasonal communities, the benefits, the implications, and the accessing, I think, some of the funding that might come out of that. So that might be able to help us. So the comment I made at the Affordable Housing Trust is, well, that work's not going to get done until the end of next year, and we got this special town meeting coming up. So maybe the special town meeting, the punting it might be seeing if we can extend it a year, identifying that we've got this study, we're working with the commission, we are heavily into investigating this. So the key may not be to have necessarily a full amendment that we can do if we don't feel comfortable with it, because we feel like we need more information, but maybe just extending the sunset clause. I don't think, I guess my only concern is whether there's a problem with the AG's office of saying, well, this is the second time you've extended it, and it's been 4 years, and blah, 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 blah. But we've also been busy on the local comprehensive plan. It took a while to get this report done. It's going to take a while to then digest this and get the public outreach and talk to people about it.
Madam Chair, can I
Yes.
ask one follow-up question? I'm trying to be the ghost of Christmas future here, and I don't even celebrate Christmas, but I appreciate it. And I'm trying to imagine us in September having a public hearing on whatever it is that we think we should do. And I think any reasonable citizen would, because this document would then be a huge part of anybody who wants to come ready to attend the public hearing and voice their opinion. Yet if this study continues down the road that it's on, regardless of the next, let's say, 2 or 4 weeks worth of work, then I'm not sure what good it's going to do us when we get to September. Again, I'm not trying to be contrarian. I'm just trying to think backwards, not to mention the other conversations we need to have as this board before we even say, this is what we'd like to have a public hearing about. Right. I totally respect what Kathy's saying about the AG, but at the same time, I just don't understand how we can possibly do anything other than say, we'd like to extend the sunset. I'm just, again,
It may very well
I
be that.
apologize that I'm talking about this now,
it
but.
may very well be that.
I haven't read it, to be fair, I have not read it as intensely as everyone here, and that's okay, because there's 7 of us. Not everybody has to be in the same place at the same time about where they are on every certain topic. I have certainly read it, but I always jump to, well, what are we gonna do with it? And what does not just the AG, but what do the town and the people of our town expect, like you said, Madam Chair, when we get to next November?
They're going to have a lot of questions that we don't have the answers to.
Right, and then we're gonna be sitting in a public hearing that we're gonna call saying, we don't know, we don't know, we don't know. And then they're gonna say, well, who signed this contract for $85,000? And then we have to answer that question.
Not us.
Wasn't us.
I understand. Yes, I know what we're gonna say. I'm just saying, that's why I'm so fascinated about where this goes from a draft to I feel like Schoolhouse Rock. Where is this going how does this become a law? I know it's not a law.
Well, maybe we can, between now and whenever, kind of get a sense of a pathway to special town meeting where Kathy and I can kind of think about how all this time frame might work out and working backwards from that.
And are there other issues that we may want to have on the special town meeting warrant besides this one? Sorry.
Well, accessory dwelling units is out there as a huge,
Got to be done.
it's empty. There's nothing in that bowl, and we need to fill that bowl, so.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, we good with that, Kath? Yeah. Okay. Number 3, special town meeting. Kathy, you want to just run through a brief summary? Everything
Yeah.
was, I thought we did well.
Thank you, everybody. Yes, obviously, we got approved for the local comprehensive plan. I have reached out to Chloe at the commission. What about what we need to do next, and we need to get a letter from the town clerk that goes to them with the certified that it was passed and adopted at town meeting, and then they will take that information and then look at scheduling the public hearing before the commission. My understanding is it's not super detailed presentation that we give, it's more of a kind of an overview. They obviously are interested more in our public participation and that type of thing. I've asked for some examples on some other communities and what they've done so that we can get an idea on that. But once I get that sent out with a certified kind of,
So we need to present to them at a public hearing?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't think it's, like I said, I don't think it's very, very large, but, and I have asked for like, what did like Sandwich do, what did Truro do, just to get an idea of what they're really looking for. But it sounds like it's more of a congratulatory tour for us to give to them of saying, you know, and it'll be very congratulatory that we actually got to this point, and they're really happy that the towns are getting certified. So I don't think it's gonna be any negative in any way, shape, or form. I think it's gonna all be positive. I haven't got the certified articles, but we do need to put in the zoning amendments to the AG's office by, I don't know, December 16th or something, December 17th. I'm waiting for the certified articles from the town clerk in order to finish that work up. The only change was, as we all know, was to the removal of the seasonality on the boats. I think the crowd that was there that night was very supportive of boats and boat changes, and I think that's part of the reason why that changed, because I know that we were all concerned that we'd put all this in and we wouldn't get it passed because people would be concerned about it, and that's why the seasonality clause went in. But that crew at the meeting there were more than happy to take that out. So I think that the people spoke.
Yep.
Madam Chair, can I ask a quick question about the timing?
Yeah, yes, you may.
You mentioned the AG, so can you just remind us one more time, and I'm sorry I asked this before special town meeting, but I cannot remember.
I don't
When
remember.
can somebody go and file for a special permit so they can park their boat on their special lot that they can't park their boat behind or next to?
Or they're
I didn't say that in really good English, but you know what I'm trying to
They
say.
can go ahead
taking it out
and,
of storage
they
and
can
now
do it
putting
now.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
they can do it now at their own risk.
Right.
And they can't implement it until, they can't actually use the special permit until it's approved by the AG's office and has been properly posted by the town clerk.
So that feels like February or March.
It's 90 days, no, it's longer, it's gonna be
What's
longer than
more?
that. It's 30 days for us to submit it and then 90 days for the AG to review it. They've been
months
close
from
to the
now.
90 days. So it's 120 days out from town meeting.
So April.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while. But
Okay.
all I'm saying is like if people feel they want to make the risk and they're willing to go and get the special permit and they're willing to put their money down for a special permit and have it in their back pocket so that come April 1st, they can park their boat there, they certainly could do that.
So, okay, right. So practically, legally, I'll say it, for those people on those particular lots, they won't be able to legally park their boat in front of their house on a trailer until April.
Yes, but it needs to be fully approved by the
Yeah,
AG's
which
office.
means, so not even April, because then you have to have an actual hearing at the zoning board, and then that has the 20-day.
Oh, no, what I'm saying is you could do that during the winter now in preparation for that, but it's not, you're not gonna have, it probably will condition it upon approval of the.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. So you can apply to the ZBA today?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
At
That's
your
what-
own risk.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry about that.
Might be a waste of money and
Didn't mean
time
to
and
confuse
effort,
anybody
but-
that actually knew what was going on. I just couldn't remember. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Kathy, any update on the Matakees Utilization Committee?
Yes, the next meeting is on December 11th, next Thursday. And BSC Group, at the last meeting, the MUC had kind of given them some direction on kind of the 3 bubble diagrams that they were interested in, really kind of being heavy on the sports complex in different ways and locations, but along with housing in some different varying degrees. They're going to have some conceptual design concepts for the MUC to look at on Thursday. And then their monthly meeting in January, I think it's on the 8th. That's when they'll finalize that, because they're going to be giving a presentation to the select board. We're hoping, I want to say February 3rd.
Okay. Thank you. We have meeting minutes to accept. May I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes of November 17th, our attendance at the special town meeting?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any committee updates? Do.
Good, yeah.
Well, shouldn't that be the most relevant, freshest update?
From CBC, we just met with Finance Committee, and in theory, we have to sit now December 16th with the Select Board, but the Finance Committee thought we had done a great job this year with it, CBC, and all that, and they said thank you and move on. So we are moving on to Select Board on December 16th.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, Peter, anything? No?
My bad. I didn't know you were going in order.
Okay, Design Review Committee, we reviewed a possible Taco Bell out there on Station Ave, at the corner of Old Town House and Station Ave,
The gas station.
the gas station and the physical therapy office next door.
Oh, that building.
So,
Oh, both.
both lots combined.
Would it be KFC and Taco Bell?
It would not, actually, it would not be a KFC.
These are important questions.
Yes, they are questions.
Put a line through the KFC
Yeah.
and just circle Taco Bell.
So
Let's go.
we had some concerns or comments about the design of the building, which is their typical boxy, southwestern-looking Taco Bell.
Who's doing a traffic study? It'd be my first question.
I think it was done previously for the,
HB did the traffic study
see it.
and determined that it's not going to have any significant impact and that the existing infrastructure can handle
I'd
it.
say something, but I don't want to say it on microphone, so.
I think when it gets to site plan review, my comment's going to be you need to get a peer review of that. Because we all know how bad Station Avenue is. And you know how busy a Taco Bell could possibly be at varying times. They don't do breakfast.
Especially there.
Yeah, they don't do breakfast, so they wouldn't, be having like early morning. But they do deliveries in a WB 64 tractor trailer truck.
Right.
Which is ginormous. So there's obviously traffic concerns. They need a special permit, and I think they might need a variance with regard to the location of the drive-through, with regard to the proximity to residential property, similar to the J-Mart situation. So they got a ways to go. They did send some modified elevations that I'm working with Sarah Porter. I sent them to Sarah. Your examples that you sent, very much appreciated. I think I actually, if you change the materials, kind of preferred the one on the second page. So I'm going to talk to Sarah a little bit about that. Sarah Porter is the architect on our design review committee, so she always has some good insights.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I have a question for Peter. Peter, is that the old gas station that was closed across the street from the?
No.
physical
No, it's the
therapy?
Sunoco that was on the corner, Tom.
Sunoco is on the corner where the car lot is?
Yes,
So they're gonna combine that with the next lot?
yes.
Right next to kind of Wendy's.
right, same owner, same developers.
Okay.
They're gonna combine it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
More mess for Station
The buildings that are odd, I can send the site plan, it's site plan, it's at an odd angle too, it's not,
It is.
it doesn't, it's not parallel with Station Ave nor Townhouse, it's kinda on an angle, it's kinda, but it was the way that they chose because of the parking and the drive-through lane and the delivery lane, I wasn't part of the previous plan that was approved there for Starbucks, but that was a building that would probably have been,
They
needs
had,
more people, but this Taco Bell has their standard, has a really typical design that they can sort of adjust to wherever they are and work, designing a building. But this one was still very clunky. It had murals, the typical murals on the side. It was, their design was, they called it Cape Cod gray, but it was brown. As Sarah said, it was kind of, it wasn't Cape Cod, the typical Cape Cod gray. Black asphalt, sort of it was,
Ugly.
I get, they need what they need, but maybe they have some flexibility too.
I think we can make it better.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I don't know if it'll make us all jump with joy, but we can definitely make it better.
Is anything going next door?
Is there any word what's going on in the old liquor store, Martin's Liquor, which is supposed to be a sandwich shop of some
I
sort?
heard that was supposed
Supposed to be.
You spent a lot of money making that into a deli.
Just repave the whole property. You
Oh,
don't
yeah,
spend,
so
you don't spend 20 grand on repaving unless you're planning on doing something with it.
Yeah, he's been working on it for way
Like a
long.
Salumeria, like this really upscale Italian.
Yeah, I thought it was
Yes.
too.
Market.
Welcome it.
Me too.
Nothing, though.
I'll ask Mark, he always seems to know everything about everything. Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr.
Hello. the RAC does not meet until Monday. Unfortunately, it'll be my last RAC meeting, but very excited for Ken. I am. Clearly, though, some very, I don't know, shocking news about the worker for Rivoli who died in a trench, and the 2 people that were injured. I've now just been informed in the last few days that there is a pending legal dispute between the town of Yarmouth and Rivoli that is parallel and has nothing to do with
The death.
this particular issue, which I'm sure will go on for quite a long time. But this actually has to do with some legitimate, not legitimate, I'll say this a different way. It has to do with some contractual disputes between the town and Rivoli, and they're not pretty. There's some very clearly staked out positions on either side about who did something wrong or who has failed to do something.
Is it out of scope problems?
It's all the things that you can imagine. And it's ugly. And now, of course, it's now got a backdrop,
Yeah, of the death.
terrible tragedy, just to sprinkle on top of it.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, as people have been asking me, and I'm sure ask many of you, there are some things that the town of Yarmouth can't do anything about. And one of them has to do with the way the state contracts are awarded. And state contracts have to be awarded to the lowest bidder, and the town of Yarmouth and the RAC, and the select board, which ultimately executes all these contracts, and Mr. Rittenhour, don't have any leeway when it comes to these things. So I think it's important for folks to remember that nobody, anybody that just Googled Rivoli while they were in the process, much like you would Google any contractor if you were involved in a committee of people who were looking at a bunch of different contractors, those things would have popped up from previous years and previous, places around the state of Massachusetts. But again, just a quick reminder, there are rules in place, and that includes with school building projects, by the way, and also, I'm assuming, libraries, that unfortunately, the town has to do the best it can with the hand that it's dealt. But it will be interesting to see, and I assume there'll be some future conversation at RAC meetings, but also at the select board, whether it's an executive session or not, that we should all be aware of. So,
Okay.
Can I ask a general question? Has OSHA done their report yet on what occurred, and
I-
have they,
yeah.
is Rizzoli still working? Despite
They-
the accident?
I think, well, they were definitely halted.
Yeah, they were halted
But I
last.
believe they've been able to resume.
I can answer that. They did halt, Tom, but they have picked back up again this week.
But to answer Tom's question, OSHA has they have a long
Oh, I know
window.
they do, but have they even started?
My understanding is they're involved, but in terms of when that report will come and what it will say, it will take a long time, I would guess.
I am sure. They have months to
That would be
react.
something
I
that Ken,
worked at DOR, I mean,
right. Well, I just mean that Ken will certainly, I think the RAC will hear about it and select board will hear about it, and hopefully we'll be able to inform each other about. the
Typically, in a
progress there.
situation like this, is that once OSHA's involved, they actually now probably have forced the hand of Rivoli to put a safety officer on the job site
Right.
to oversee future work.
Which is net a good thing.
Right, not a good thing, a terrible tragedy, but all I do know is I see trucks up and down South Shore Drive again working, so that, that piece I do see.
Okay.
That area in front of the skipper, that's closed indefinitely though. Now, I don't know if that's because of OSHA or what, but that area right now in front is closed. That is totally closed. You have to go around the detour behind.
Because they have to do an entire examination.
They have, until they finish their due diligence, that site will be closed.
That's right, yeah, and I'm sure that's why it is closed, Tom.
Yeah.
Is because of OSHA's due diligence or some safety inspectors, I know state's involved, the feds are involved, I'm sure the town's involved, so, but that area, that stretch in front of the skipper is, you can't get through there, so.
Which is it's probably gonna be held up till summer, at least.
Well, I hope not.
I wouldn't be
positive,
surprised.
Tom.
It could be
Thank you, Madam
because it was
Chair.
a death.
Any, Ms.
No,
Britta,
I'm fine. Nope.
committee?
Nope, nothing.
Deirdre?
No, they haven't.
Tom, anything?
Not on a committee yet, so.
You will be,
You will be.
and they're
right.
excited to have
The
you.
library committee used to have been very
I
nice.
have to get to the appointments. I haven't made that formal request to them yet, but I will do that.
Oh, on our assignments? Yeah.
FinCom knew it tonight, so.
Tom knows everything.
Well, that's because Richard, Simon, and I
They're buddies.
had a conversation. And I mentioned that Tom is later, the next cycle. We wanted to make sure you're staying through.
Yeah.
I told him that tonight.
Yeah.
I'd stay through this cycle
Yep.
and get the kickoff, and so for a little while in January, I'll go to both meetings and then pass the baton.
Okay. Kathy, correspondence or staff updates?
Hang on, I got something. I did receive today the VCOD site plan review application for 645 Route 28, which is that, it's that old Chinese food restaurant kind
The
of,
China Inn.
Tasty buffet?
no, the other
Up by-
end.
China Inn.
up by
The China
Captain
House.
Parker,
The China, no,
What was it
in
called?
between.
It's China Inn,
China Inn.
Across
from
from,
the Compass Lounge,
Yeah.
right?
No.
No, it's
No,
across
no,
from
the one up by-
it's
the
on
one up by
Applebee,
Captain
Parker's.
Applebee Lane.
We're talking next to Sons of Aaron over there.
Yes.
Yes,
Hunan
yes.
Gourmet.
Captain Parker's.
It's that old green restaurant
Yes,
that's
it's
been
been
vacant.
vacant for
What's that gonna become?
decades.
Yeah, it's been vacant since I've been
What is
here.
that going to become?
It's going to become mixed use. It's going to have 11 housing units in it with two 1,000-square-foot commercial spaces on the
Walk
first
right to the
floor.
park.
And walk right to the
Be a
park.
nice location.
And I believe
Walk
that
to
the
the new
Affordable
park.
Housing Trust gave some money for that, and through that discussion, they were required to provide 2 affordable housing units from inclusionary, but I think because they gave them some money, that I think there's going to be 4
Out of the 11?
out of the 11. So,
It's all rental, no ownership?
all rental, yep. Yep. And then just, I had mentioned in the email that I sent for the Conservation Commission agenda that we are going to be seeing a modification to the definitive subdivision for 63 Thatcher Shore. When they ultimately installed the roadway, they didn't install the swales on the side. And based on the conditions and looking out there, it didn't look like they really needed it. The swales would actually have been concentrating the stormwater runoff, and it wasn't necessary. But they are going to the Concom, I believe, tomorrow night in order to get approval for that change. So they did a request for determination of applicability, and then that's going to be something, I believe, our January 7th meeting. That will be a public hearing. You may get a lot of people from that neighborhood coming, but I think that it has settled down a little bit. But and then also, we're working to finalize the edits on the hazard mitigation plan. Thank you to everyone who provided comments. I sent those off to Martha Hebner at the commission, and we're meeting tomorrow to kind of go through them and make edits. And then we're going to go out for public comment, and then we'll also have a public meeting, and then we're going to be on that select board meeting on February 4th as well. We have until May 2nd to finalize it with the grant.
Okay. Upcoming meetings, December 17th, maybe, Kath? It's a maybe?
The only thing is I think we're okay. I did get an A&R plan that somebody submitted that would have been an issue, but they can do it through an 81X. They don't need to come to us. They don't need to pay. If you do a perimeter plan, if you're just joining 2 pieces of property that you own, it's called a perimeter plan. You don't have to come to us through an A&R. You can go directly to the Barnstable Registry of Deeds through an 81X, record it, let us know the recording. It ends up going to the assessors. And then Mark, they wanted to extend their deck, but Mark's like, I'm not doing that until you've combined your lots. So I don't think we need to do the A&R for that. So I don't think, we don't have anything for the December 17th meeting. I am going to be out of the office that day. And I don't want to, I probably could get back, but I don't want to rush to have to get back.
When will we meet after the 17th?
January 7th.
7th?
January 7th?
That will be the public hearing on that subdivision modification.
Take your time getting back, Kath. We're all set.
Yeah. Oh, darn. Thanks, Ken.
My vote counts.
Madam Chair, may I ask a quick question?
You may.
Has there been any movement on the CEDC that you know of?
Yes, I did. I think in January, there's going to be some movement on that. I think Megan's on vacation this week.
Okay.
but I
Well,
believe
it's
she was
just
saying
unclear as to
something.
who is actually on it besides me.
I think you and Peter Malpass.
Okay, but I mean, I don't know what the minimum requirements are to have a
Oh,
board.
you would, yeah, you would.
So, I
you would
mean, it
need
may take
4
some time.
for
You need to-
quorum. Yeah, yeah,
4.
yeah.
Kathy, any update on
thank you.
Great Island?
No.
And the new mobile app and the new mobile website.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean, I try to wait every couple months. I don't ask.
I probably do know, but I don't
Town of
remember.
Yarmouth, there are some towns on the Cape that have an app. And there are some towns on the Cape that have a website that is mobily optimized, and unfortunately, we have neither. Okay. Not a judgment, just a fact.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
You may. Second.